Welcome back to Everyday Iowa. We are honored once again to have Dr. Ben Wyatt join us from InMotion Pain Solutions. Good morning, good sir. How are you?
We're doing well.
What's been keeping you busy before we get to the topic at hand today?
Kids are back in school.
Yes, very much so.
So maybe a little less busy, but easier to get on the bus.
That's true. And easier to get away, too. When you're not watching kids, maybe now is the time to talk about getting some of these issues that have been bothering you dealt with. And to that point, it's InMotion Q&A today because Dr. Ben's going to answer some of the most common questions that he gets regarding pain injections. First of all, what is a pain injection?
Well, pain injections where they take a needle and they stick it in you, and they're usually injecting a medicinal solution that's looking to take down inflammation and, as an extent, knock out pain for people.
Okay. So then as we take a step further, how does it work? Give me a little bit of the science behind it, a little bit of the nuts and bolts of it here.
Well, see, when you take a needle...
Okay, and that's all the time we have. No. So it's kind of helping the body naturally do what it does.
To an extent. What ends up happening is they're usually looking to deliver some form of a steroid. And steroid's an anti-inflammatory. And when they do that, they're taking down inflammation, which irritates the nerves, and in doing so, they can take some pressure off and eliminate a degree of that pain. But there are some of the downsides that come with it. The first being a lot of these injections, whereas they're common, they're not FDA approved. So there's risk factors that do come, especially around reactions with it. And separate from that, they don't really address the driving cause of the issue. Yeah, I tell people it's like having a check engine light, and the injection is kind of like cutting the wire to the light. Light goes out, everything's
fixed. Put a little black tape over that light in the dashboard.
But when your engine's grinding, or when your back, your knee, or your shoulder, whatever else is still grinding, what have you really achieved long term?
And I guess that leads to the next questions, or one of them submitted was, it worked the first time, but it wore off, and now it's not working again.
The law of diminishing returns. And that goes to that last point that I make. A lot of folks will have success with the initial course of injection, but because that physical element hasn't been addressed, their degenerative change progresses over time.
Okay.
So the follow-up injections, there's not as much of the capacity for healing available to the body, so they don't get as much out of it. And eventually they hit a threshold of degradation where the injections is not going to lift them out.
And is there a point, Doc, where it's like, all right, we've done this enough, you can only inject so much? Yeah. And how do you know when you've reached that point? Might seem like a silly question, but how do you know?
No, for a lot of people, it's when that injection loses its efficacy.
Okay.
So, give you an example. Okay. We just wrapped care for a patient last Thursday. They had come to us with a number of different things going, but the primary was sciatic through the left, going down the butt all the way to the calf.
Okay.
Got worse as the day would go on. First injection they did, 6 months relief. They thought, I'm back, baby. Full activities, no limitations, but in the end, that pain started kind of creeping back, so I thought, okay, let's do it again. Second injection, 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's a big difference. Big difference there.
And the downside is, usually these injections you can do quarterly. For a year, it's what insurance would cover, and you can't do them too frequently because the steroid itself will damage tissue.
Okay.
So the patient had to wait a few months to get that next injection, and that third round, 4 days.
Oh my goodness.
So that was that diminishing return. Usually if you have that course of injection that fails over a period of time, then there'll be an escalation to something surgical.
So let's talk about, instead of putting the black tape over that check engine light, let's dive into the nuts and bolts of this and maybe fix what's causing that issue. And that's your specialty.
Yeah. You got to address that driving cause if you want to have sustainable relief. So you got to be able to understand what is the driver of this. Why are we here? And so often the immediate objective is to get that individual out of pain, which is great, but then there's not that follow-up of, okay, how do we stop from getting back to this point? And that's a reversal of what I'm looking at. If we can address the driving cause, we're going to get them out of pain, but we're going to be able to keep them out of pain and do that conservatively. So that individual I was talking about, within 2 weeks, no pain in the leg at all, kind of centered in the low back. 2 further weeks, no limitations. They were able to go and mow the lawn, which we had a lot of that to do this year.
Absolutely. Still do.
Yeah. Tomorrow for me, but they were able to sleep through the night. And that was the big kicker, because they could not sleep. And if you're not sleeping, you're not resting, you're not recovering. And now they have something that is accessible, that's sustainable. If something is to crop up into the future, they call me, I got them right in. They're not having to go to the primary to schedule, get approved by insurance, then go to the pain clinic. They're scheduled a couple of weeks out, and then you got to hope the injection works. Then you still got in the back of the head, is this going to work for me? Are we actually fixing the problem?
Calling you. That's step number one. How do people go about doing that? And when they do, no cost, no obligation consultation right off the bat.
Always. 319-200-1495. We sit down with the individual. We get to the heart of what's going on. We make the judgment call if we're the right guys. Because if there is a scenario where there's a better option, we can direct them to that. If we've got opportunity, we gather information, we put together a course of care, we share our findings, and we lay everything out for the patient so they can make an informed decision for themselves.
You talked about that timeline too. You know, if you go with the, all right, we're doing shots, now it's holding off. Somebody calls you, give me a rough ballpark. How soon before they can start to live life normally again?
It all depends on the individual, but we can at least get them an answer pretty immediately. You had the opportunity to meet Dr. Hayden, who's joined our office this year. And that has really cut down the timeline to get people in. We can get people in just within about a week or two of the time that they call, if not sooner.
Perfect. Phone number one more time, please, good sir.
319-200-1495.
It's like you've got it committed to memory.
I might have said it before.
Good to see you, Dr. Ben. All his details on the station website. Hey, stick around if you don't have to rush off. We're tailgating here next half hour.
Well, I just